and welcome back to CDN Precision. Today we're going to be reviewing the Bergara B14 HMR, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. So choosing your first precision or match rifle is rather difficult, especially if you don't know what to look for. The Bergara B14 HMR covers every base that you typically want in one of these said match rifles. They call it the HMR, the hunting match rifle. Personally, I would have not mentioned hunting just because this is a 10-pound rifle. It's not something I want to be lugging around in the woods at all. This rifle, you can get it chambered in at .308 Winchester, 6.5 Creedmoor, 22-250, 450 Bushmaster, 6.5 PRC, 300 Win Mag, 300 PRC, and 7 PRC. So why the Bergara? Well, why the Bergara B14 HMR, especially at this price? So we're looking at about $1,500 Canadian, and I think it's about $1,100 US. There's just no options at this price point that have anything close to this value. So I'm talking obviously about the integrated mini chassis, the vertical grip, the adjustable comb height, the length of pull, the heavy barrel, the nice action. There's just no one out there offering this much for so little. So let's get started with the most important part of any review, the accuracy. So Bergara offers a sub-MOA guarantee. So 3 shots under 1 inch at 100 yards, which is really not that incredible. That pretty much just covers a warranty in some aspect of it not being completely defective. Because I've had some pretty bad rifles, in fact, some of the worst, that if you try enough different types of ammunition, at one point, you're going to get 3 shots, 3 consecutive shots that are going to be under an inch. That 4th shot could bring it to 4 inches, but technically that would still consider this rifle as a sub-MOA rifle. This is not the case with this rifle. This is actually a very accurate rifle. We tested 9 different types of match ammunition through this rifle, and out of the 9, the average that we got was 1.42 inches, which is not good. The average is not good, but we are going to get to the good part. The best 3-shot grip we got out of this rifle, and we did more than just 3 shots. That's what we use as our typical baseline. The best 3-shot group we got was 0.64 inches at 100 meters. Meters is slightly longer than yards, so slightly further, not by much. And we had 4 out of the 9 that were sub-MOA. What this means is almost half of them, or basically half, were sub-MOA. And that's really, really good. So let's start with the worst and work our way to the best. The Winchester USA Ready. Now, this is really, really cheap match ammunition. I just buy it because it's so cheap. It's like 30 bucks instead of everything else in here is pretty much like over 50, 60 bucks. We got 3 shots and it was 3.16. Our second worst group, SIG Elite Hunter. I don't usually get this bad groups. 2.61 inches. Federal Premium Barnes TSX, 130 grain, 1.41 inches. Norma Golden Target, 143 grain, 1.63. Normally I do better with the golden targets. Cellier and Bellot, 142 grain, 1.22 inches, and a 4th shot brought it slightly worse to 1.28. And now this is where it gets good. 3 shots, 0.77. 4th shot maintained within 0.77. 5th shot, still sub-MOA, and 6th shot brought it to 1.56. And that was with the Hornady 140 grain ELDMs. I typically get decent results out of most rifles with the Hornadys. Next is the Nosler Match 140 grain hollow point boat tail RDF. Now this is an ammunition that I consistently get good groups with, not to be confused with the standard Nosler Match 140 grains. Those ones I typically don't get good groups with. So 3-shot group 0.67, 4th shot group 0.82, 5th shot group 0.94. So that is pretty good. You can do some serious long range with that. And yes, it obviously gets much better. Federal Premium Gold Medal Burger, OTM 130 grain. Why Federal comes up with the longest, most ridiculous, well, they're probably not ridiculous, but really long names is beyond me. I understand they do massive partnerships with every bullet maker, but at some point, just make the names a little shorter. 3-shot group, 0.67, and it maintained within 0.67 all the way to the 7th shot, and the 8th shot brought it to 0.94. That is damn good. So this rifle can absolutely go into a match and kick some butt. Next, Norma Golden Target 130 grain. Now, while the one prior to that, the OTM 130 grain, was probably the best group we got out of this rifle, we kind of rank them in terms of the best 3-shot group. So next is Norma Golden Target 130s, a 0.64 for the 3-shot group, and 4th shot all the way to the 6th shot was 0.81, 7th shot 0.87, and 8th shot 0.87. That is damn good. This rifle can perform exceptionally well when you find the right ammunition. And that comes to almost any rifle that we have reviewed. We always put them through just around 10 different types of ammunition, and we always find one that performs, or, well, on budget rifles, I'd say the super budgets, probably like 2 of them that are sub-MOA and decent. On slightly less budget, maybe 3, and then things like this, 4, and then it's never really knowing how many are really going to continue to have really tight groups. So a lot of the time you might see 1 that gives us a really tight group like this one. With this one we saw 2 that performed, you know, after 4 or 5 different shots. So this is absolutely not a lemon of a rifle. And in terms, if you were thinking maybe down the road, once you cook this barrel, the biggest difference you're going to see if you were to go with a full custom to a factory rifle, accuracy is one, but it's primarily contributed to by the barrel. The main factor is going to be the barrel. So once you cook this barrel, take it off, go get a new barrel made for this action, and you will be so happy. Next, let's talk about the action. So this barreled action has a 1-piece bolt, and it's a 90-degree throw. So this is a 90-degree throw. A lot of the time, even on the hunting rifles, we see a lot of 60 and 70-degree throws. My personal preference is something like a Tikka, which I believe is a 70-degree throw, but this one is so smooth and so nice, and it doesn't go exceptionally high and then get in the way of our scope, so I'm not particularly bothered by it. So for a 90-degree throw, they did a really good job in making sure this bolt was buttery smooth. And in my opinion, compared to the rest, this is probably going to be one of the smoothest actions you are going to see out there. Also, they have a Seiko style extractor, and for this rifle, I think we had maybe 1 failure to eject total over all the rounds we've put through, which was probably somewhere around 200 rounds total. In terms of the barrel is 4140 chromoly steel barrel. It's a number 6 taper profile. It has button rifling. So a lot of the time, a lot of rifle makers are either going to do button rifle, cold hammer forged, or even single point cut. Single point cut seems to be a bit more popular with the custom barrel market. And also this action does not come with a rail. If you want a rail, I'd recommend checking out MDT. And yes, we do carry them at CDN Precision. Next, let's talk about the trigger. So the factory trigger is going to weigh in around 2.8 to 4.4 pounds with a braking variance of around 0.2 pounds, which not the worst, not the best, obviously. And at this price point, there's others that have slightly better triggers. For what it is, as an overall, this is really not the end of the world for me, and you probably will not notice it if it's your first rifle. You'll in fact probably really appreciate this trigger until you try something similar to a trigger tech. So a lot of the trigger techs that I'm mostly used to is a diamond, but for this rifle, for what it is, you know, an entry-level budget rifle, I'd probably recommend switching it out with something like a trigger tech primary, which you can adjust all the way down to 1.5 pounds, which is a breaking weight that I personally prefer for matches. So it's just enough that it gets some resistance, you can do a mental break, and off it goes. And it goes from 1.5 pounds all the way to 4. So even good for a hunting weight, which is typically around 3 pounds. They prefer a little heavier weight in those rifles. Now, what you're going to see in terms of difference between a factory trigger and a aftermarket trigger, like a trigger tech, is there is 0 creep in a trigger tech. It breaks like glass, while in factory triggers, this one has just a little bit amount of creep. And in terms of breaking weight, you won't see any change, or it'll be very negligible in a trigger tech, while in one of these, you know, we saw 0.2 pounds variance between breaking weights. Next is going to be the stock. So the main element of this entire stock or chassis is going to be the aluminum mini chassis integrator. That's the biggest feature in this chassis that's making it good. After that, it's going to be the design. So we're looking at AICS compatibility, and yes, it drops freely. I really do like that. It has a vertical grip, which is very comfortable. Whether you're shooting offhand or off a barricade, off of a bench rest, you are going to appreciate that. It has a hook, so you can really pull that stock into your shoulder if you're shooting off of a tripod or even off of a bench rest. It has adjustable comb height and adjustable length of pull with spacers. So they covered all their bases. You know, in the rear for the length of pull, it's obviously a much simpler system than the more expensive options, but then again, that's what you get at this price point. And on the front here, we have just simply two sling swivel studs here, which Area 419 that has something for this. You unscrew these and you can put something that has a Picatinny rail. It's a very short segment of a Picatinny rail, and you can drop it into a tripod. So in this video, actually, we were using a Sunwave Photo, I think it was a 3240 CSL, which is a really great tripod. We also do have them on our site. But if I did have the piece on the front, the Arca piece on the front, I could have just dropped it right into the head as opposed to using a saddle mount as you see in this video. So saddle mounts are great. They're very versatile. They'll fit everything. But ideally, you want to bring the least amount of things out. And the least amount of connecting parts means less flexibility. So I would recommend going with that route. So obviously, you have these sling swivel studs here for a sling or such. And it does have these quick detach mounts. It does have these QD slots here and here, which is very, very appreciated. So I think they did a fantastic job on this stock. This is really one of the main reasons why this rifle is so damn popular. It's offering so much in terms of the stock, in terms of the accuracy, in terms of the smoothness of bolt, and the compatibility. One thing I totally did not mention is this action is Remington 700 footprint, meaning you want to go into a serious competition because you're good. You want to put this in an MDT ACC or ESS, you can just unbolt it and drop it right in one that is for a Remington 700 short action footprint, and it's that easy. So that's one big advantage of this platform is compatibility. One thing that is not compatible though is going to be barrels. So their threads on the Bergaras are not going to be the same. Then again, any competent gunsmith who makes barrels is going to be able to thread one for your Bergara B14 HMR. And the triggers are Remington 700 triggers, and the rails are Remington 700 short action rails. Next on our list is the warranty. So it's a lifetime warranty for original purchaser only, and it covers manufacturing defects and workmanship and such. So keep in mind, a lot of the time they don't want you using hand loads, or at least telling them that you used hand loads. So just be careful if that's what you're doing. In terms of what I think they could do to improve for this rifle, this thing is damn near perfect, especially this price point. What could I do to complain? Well, I always find little things. So one of them was they could have done a 60 or 70 degree bolt through. I can't recall what the CVA Cascade is, but it has a very smooth action. And they did it on the Cascade, which is a more budget rifle. They could do it on a Bergara B14 HMR. It would give you a little more clearance for your scope. It would probably end around here, which is a little bit better. And at the bottom of this, which obviously would up the cost and maybe defeat the purpose of this rifle, but M-locks along the bottom or an Arca rail. That would just be chef's kiss, taking this rifle to the next level. Then again, I think doing that would make their profit margins next to gone, because a lot of the time there's not huge profit margins to be made on rifles according to gun stores in my area. They carry them to get you in the door so you purchase other things. Talking about purchasing other things, in this video we were using for the long range portion is a Discovery EDPRS, and yes, we do carry these. And why the Discovery EDPRS? Well, it has every feature you're going to be looking for, especially on a budget. It's 36 mils of total internal adjustment, which is ridiculous. Zero stop, an easily resettable turret, a wide magnification range, 5 to 25, ED glass, a lifetime warranty fulfilled by yours truly here at CDN Precision. And this is probably my most recommended scope on a budget. They're like 580 Canadian, and yeah, I've had no returns whatsoever with the EDPRS Gen 2. This is technically a Gen 2.5, but they still just call them Gen 2s. Anyway, that's my strongest recommendation for long range on a budget. They are fantastic, and I always recommend everybody get something like this. So a Fix-It Sticks kit. This is an absolute necessity, especially for the torque wrench, because when I was getting into this, I would just use the provided torque wrenches and torque it to whatever I felt was just about right, and I was never usually quite right. And I've had some scopes slip, I've had some issues, I had some questionable groups, and you're never always really wondering, well, what is the issue? And this really brings things down. So you can torque your scope rail to your rifle at the correct tension. You can torque your rings to the rail at the correct tension, your scope caps at the correct tension, and everything properly. So anyway, guys, this is my thoughts on the Bergara B14 HMR. This is likely going to be the best, the greatest budget bolt-action rifle at this price point. But then again, SHOT Show's around the corner. Let's see what comes then.